Hey guys, I want to talk to you a bit today about scene etiquette. That is, when you're outside of a rope scene, when you are at a play party, at a demonstration, how do you behave around these people who are doing this awesome, sexy rope around you? Etiquette, in this case, being a stand-in word for not being a dick. And trust me, not following these rules is a good way to get labeled as a creeper, good way to get ejected from your first play party. Be very careful about this stuff. Let's start with the biggest and most obvious one that you've probably already heard online a couple of times. Don't interrupt the scene. For purposes of discussion of BDSM, two people are thought to be in a scene while they're actively playing, immediately after, while they're recovering, oftentimes before, while they're negotiating. There are several different phases, but the entire play process is in scene for purposes of this discussion. When does a rope scene begin? Well, that's debatable, and people have a lot of different answers. I like to think of it as soon as someone's picked up rope and is making eye contact with their partner or being close otherwise. Of a certainty, once someone has rope on their body, once it's stretched across any part of the body, that scene has begun, and until all of it is off and people are up and recovered, the scene is not over yet. While that's the case, consider these people to be completely unavailable to you socially. It's as if they had gone into another room and closed a door between them and you. It's really that serious, and I'm talking about them, not just the bottom who's being tied, but the top also. Do not interrupt them, do not initiate contact with them in any way. The most common and seemingly innocuous way that this rule is broken is when people are expressing admiration. I'll have people who are new to the scene come up and say, "Oh, that's beautiful what you guys are doing. You two are amazing. You're very skilled." Great, we want to hear that afterwards. After the scene is over, after all the rope is off and we're recovered, we'd love to have somebody come up to us and tell us what a great job we did. Maybe hours later at the same party, but not during, not immediately after. Keep that to yourself until you're ready to share it in a social context. The other most common breach of this rule is friends who assume that they are welcome. In many cases they might be, but it's still against the rules. If you're a friend of the top and you want to say, "Hey, you're doing a great job, keep up the good work," if you're a friend of the bottom and want to come up and touch them and say, oh, it looks like you're having so much fun, I'm so happy for you," sometimes that's okay, but wait for the people in the scene to initiate that. Don't assume that that's absolutely cool because you guys are best friends forever. Maybe they are in a different headspace. Maybe they want to be left alone. That should be their choice and not yours. Again, kinksters love your comments. They love your enthusiasm, your compliments. Just hold on to that thought. Bring it to us afterwards. Share it with us when we can all appreciate it together. Okay, enough harping on not interrupting the scene. Let's move on to rule number 2. Stand back. Give the scene some space. Watching a scene, don't crowd in. Don't try and get your face in closer to see details. We know you're enthusiastic, but a little bit of personal space is really appreciated. Even if you're not interested in the scene, you're not really paying attention, it can still happen. You can still violate this rule by drifting passively too close to that scene. In a big crowded dungeon or other space, this can happen accidentally, but it's still the fault of the people who are not part of the scene. They need to give room to people who are playing. And especially where rope is involved, be aware that the person who's tying has about an arm span's worth of throw distance on their rope that's going to go out back behind them. If you're in that range, you're going to get hit with rope, and it's not their fault. For that throw distance, I would say about 3 meters or 10 feet for us imperial types. Keep in mind that this rule also applies to temporary invasions of that space, people who are moving through your area just to get to somewhere else. In a big crowded room, someone's scene space may seem like the easiest avenue of egress, but trust me, don't be that guy who steps in and over people doing rope. Not good. Okay, moving on. Rule number 3. Don't touch the gear. You should have learned this in kindergarten, but it bears saying again. Don't touch people's stuff. While someone's gear may seem secondary or auxiliary or purely functional, those are their toys. This means keeping your hands off of someone's rope, someone's carabiners, their ring, their webbing, literally anything that came out of their bag at the beginning of the night is something that you should be asking for permission before touching. I can't tell you the number of times that I've hung up a suspension ring at the beginning of the night, used it a few times, stepped away from it only momentarily, just to come back and find someone swinging around on it. They'll just jump up and do playground, monkey, acrobatic stuff, and it's like, hi, who are you? Why are you swinging around on my sex toy? Maybe it's innocent. Maybe they're new or they think it's house equipment that just kind of came with the dungeon, but that's not the case. Be careful with this stuff, guys. Okay, great. Rule number 4. Keep your commentary on the scene in your head. I mean, okay, I get it. We're all rogue geeks here. We all like to show off our knowledge. We all like to look at what someone else is doing and describe the beauty of their construction and a ton of pseudo-Japanese terminology. All we ask is that you not do it within hearing distance of the person who's tying. It's really obnoxious to get a play-by-play of exactly what you're doing as you're doing it, and a bunch of amateur opinion on why it's the right choice or why they would do it differently. It's okay to think that. You're going to be thinking that no matter what. Just keep it to yourself. And of course, safety is a big concern in these type of environments. If you think you see someone doing something, dangerous or unsafe, go find a dungeon monitor. Alert them. Let them deal with the problem. As an aside, for those not familiar, dungeon monitors are the lifeguards of the play space. It's their job to identify when there's an issue and take the appropriate steps so that people playing don't have to worry about that. Some people like to get really edgy in what they do, and everyone's risk profile is different. The dungeon monitor is the one who decides whether it's within the risk profile of the space, whether it violates the rules of the party, and whether or not it needs to be intervened with. Okay, there you have my big 4 rules to help you not be a dick and not get kicked out of your first play party. A lot of BDSM etiquette is somewhat ephemeral. It's definitely unwritten, and people will argue about the finer points of it online. If there's a big rule that you think I missed, absolutely put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear. My name's George, and as always, have a good one.